Hello, hello, welcome, please come in. It's time for another Final Fantasy series, and this time we will be beating a handful of Final Fantasies using only the Samurai class. Possibly the most inconsistent class in Final Fantasy history. And we are starting that journey today in Final Fantasy V. So let's skip through all of the standard nonsense, recruiting our cast of characters, and smacking the first boss in the face repeatedly until it dies. This unlocks the job menu, and thanks to the modified save file I have, means I now have access to the Samurai class. Which is good, because normally I wouldn't have access to Samurai until much later in the game. And Samurai is an interesting class in this game. They specialize in using katanas, and I obviously won't get any until closer to when you would normally unlock the Samurai class. However, they also get heavy armor and shields, and like most classes, they can use daggers. FF5 has a weird relationship with daggers, not allowing you to buy them until the next town, so I'm gonna have to deal with the next boss, Carlibos, with only 2 characters with actual weapons. Good news is that Samurai hits pretty hard regardless, and heavy armor gives good defenses. And yes, we'll get to Zenonage, don't get impatient. Through the ship graveyard, picking up items as I go, and it's time for the next boss fight against Siren. And I will now demonstrate Zenonage, Samurai's default ability, and yes, that did one-shot the boss. Zenonage is probably the most busted ability in the entire game. The only downside is that it also costs gil, though it also doesn't cost that much gil, at least not when used on single targets. Into Carwin to buy all new equipment for the party. Now everyone has an actual weapon to use, which is really nice. The daggers are mostly for random encounters, admittedly, because as the next boss fight demonstrates, bosses are going to be almost a complete non-issue for a while. I have a dragon, so it's time to fly south to Waltz. I'm a little low on gil for new equipment, which is a bit of a shame, but at least I'm also under-leveled. Zenonage does scale its damage based on level, but honestly not that much, especially this early in the game. And the cost of Zenonage also scales off level, so early on it actually helps to stay under-leveled. Being under-leveled does complicate random encounters though, because the enemies in Waltz Tower can one-shot me if I'm not careful. Heavy armor and shields can only do so much. Okay, into the Garula fight, and goodbye Garula. Yeah, get used to that boss strategy, it's going to be dominant for a good bit of the game yet. Waltz Tower completed, I can warp over to Karnak. Karnak continues the trend of selling better weapons and armor that I'm struggling to afford because I'm broke. Zenonage costs 50 gil per level per target, so even a single use of it is fairly costly at this level. The gil enemies drop scales faster than the cost of Zenonage, so this will stop being as much of an issue eventually, but for now I really need to be mindful of that cost. Anyway, into the fire ship to pick up treasure chests and kill random enemies, and it's next boss time, Liquid Flame. And this boss takes 2 Zenonages. Incredible, I know. The random fights during the escape sequence are rough. The sorcerers are fine, but the Gigas counter for a lot of damage, but there are some really nice treasures here, especially the Gil. I think I'm just going to use Zenonage to end the fights with Gigas as quickly as possible. At this level, I should still end up in the positive money-wise. That means it's time for the Ancient Library. This area has 2 bosses, and first on the list is Ifrit. 2 Zenonages win the fight, and unlocks the second half of the library, which leads to the next boss, Biblos, who is super annoying and takes a whole 3 Zenonages to take out. Stupid jerk, wasting all my money. Oh, I should also sell all this junk I can't equip. That should help with the money issue a bit. Though money is actually going to remain an issue the entire playthrough, I fear. And now I have acquired a boat. First stop on my list is Chakol, which sells mage mashers and... oh wait, they sell katanas here? Huh, I assumed I wouldn't be able to buy these until World 2. Okay, time to save up money so I can get everyone better weapons because that will be super useful. And on the boat ride over to Karnak Island, I unlock Shira Hadori. This allows the character a chance to negate a physical attack. Combined with having shields, samurai are actually pretty difficult to hit with physical attacks, and that survivability is going to be very important. Anyway, normal events, boat sinks, get a black chocobo, and it's over to the desert to deal with a sandworm. I think I'm gonna try to fight the boss normally. I'd love to not have to spend a ton of gil, especially when there are 3 targets to waste my money. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Zenonage, please. In Ronka, I fall in a hole, teleport across the world, and fly up in the sky in my brand new airship. Huzzah! Boss time. Crayclaw is just Carlibos' shiny. Zenonage... oh, deals no damage. Oh, that's not ideal. I'm actually not sure what causes Zenonage to deal 0 damage against this boss. Could just be high physical defense? I'm not clear on the exact damage formula. But that does mean I need to actually fight it fairly. On one hand, this is a pretty easy boss. On the other hand, I am very underleveled for this point in the game. Good thing I have a pretty good stock of Phoenix Downs. Well, had a pretty good stock of Phoenix Downs because wow, do I use a lot of them. And potions. Seriously, Crayclaw having Maelstrom is very rude because I'm actually quite durable against physical attacks, but Maelstrom bypasses all of that. Okay, there we go. Finally, Crayclaw being difficult. Wow, I have in fact seen everything. How exciting. And the next few fights are going to be complicated, so I think it's finally time to do some proper grinding, get my level caught up, and earn some money. Grinding done, katanas and some spare gil acquired, and it's time for Runga to rise into the air, which means I need to head back to the first meteor to get some adamantite, and this fight could be a little bit messy. Adamantoise is really physically defensive, so Zenonage deals 0 damage, so I must rely on the damage of my new katanas, which honestly also don't deal that much damage. However, between shields, Shira Hadori, and some elven capes, Adamantoise struggles to hit me enough times to actually be threatening. So now it's time to attack the Flying Fortress, which means I need even more money so I can deal with the cannons and missile launchers. Oh, I should also check if Lix or Istri have anything I need. Not really. Normally I'd buy a flame ring, but I'm not expecting that to be necessary. And it's time for cannons and flamethrowers. And yeah, I don't really have any good options other than Zenonage here. It's expensive, doubly so, since there are 2 targets in every fight, but my basic attacks are dealing so little damage. At least katanas can deal decent damage on a critical hit. Anyway, basic defense is down, and it's time to grind out even more money because Zenonage is essential for at least the first portion of the fight. I need to take out the secondary systems immediately so they don't inflict uld. From there, it's just spam attack and hope that it's fast enough, and it is. Cool. Into the Ronka Ruins. The random encounters here are nice for getting some more gil and experience, and Samurai's basic attacks are good, if not great. The treasures here are nice, though there is nothing that exciting, and it's boss time. Archeo Avis has a pretty high physical defense, it seems, so basic attacks it is. Good news is critical hits deal pretty good damage, and my party is pretty fast. This lets me take out each phase quickly, drastically reducing the number of actions the boss actually takes. And once it revives, it loses that high physical defense, and Zenonage can end the fight. Time to gather some meteor juice, I guess this is, which means boss rush time. First up is Pyrobolus. I could carefully whittle down HP with basic attacks. That cost me over 6,000 gil. Next up is Titan, who tries to hit my party and never actually succeeds before dying. Earthshaker is strong, but not that strong. Then it's into the Chimera Brain fight. Chimera Brain has Frost and Aqua Breath. Both are strong, and they are scary in combination. But I managed to take the win, though barely. This means it's time to drop in and join Galuf in his world. I beat up this abductor without getting hit, get captured anyway, and Galuf drops in to the rescue. The required Gilgamesh fight is very easy. Seriously, Samurai have a really good physical evasion stat. I don't think I ever realized that. Onto the big bridge, and that physical evasion and okay damage is really working for me, and it's time for another Gilgamesh fight. Zenonage would do a lot, but I am trying to save money because I know there are a lot of things I'll need to purchase, and Zenonage is only going to be more and more important as the game goes on. Once Gilgamesh does his buffing phase, I do use one Zenonage to end the fight. And the party is thrown across the world, and I reach the town of Ragol, which has all new defensive equipment, which is nice. And then it's over to the woods to dive into a canal to rescue a Moogle, which really just means beating up a bunch of crabs and octopi, and then throw a phoenix down to kill a dinosaur. Moogle Village likewise has some items. The gil is nice, though nothing else is that exciting, and it's over to Castle Ball. Our dragon is sick, and we're gonna need some medicine for that. So it's over to Werewolf Town, which is sadly lacking in new equipment. Huh. Very rare for Werewolf Town to disappoint, but here we are. Ooh, new katana, neat. Anyway, next boss is up, and it's the plant. As usual, basic attacks against the main body, then when a bunch of flowers show up, Zenonage. It's an expensive strategy with how many targets there are, but wow, that damage is really good. Dragon rescued, and it's time for Zizat Castle, which has new weapons, and I can sell this stupid Hypno Crown for a lot of gil. That is genuinely very useful. Anything I can get that I can sell for good money makes me happy. And next up is Boat Fight, which means another fight against Gilgamesh. My basic attacks are okay, becoming good once I crit. Darn, I was really hoping I'd be fast enough that Enkidu wouldn't show up, but I failed, which means it's time to use Zenonage for double the cost, which is a bit of a bummer. It is easy, though. Submarine over to Barrier Tower. The dragons are actually killable with Samurai. Expensive, though, so it probably wasn't worth it. And it's Atomos time. My strategy is unchanged from normal. Let one character die, and then unleash basic attacks. Once that character is almost absorbed, revive them and let someone else die. Repeat as needed. Though I did not need to repeat it thanks to a few last Zenanages, just to be safe. I have a submarine, so it's time to head over to Guido's Cave. This gets me the Guardian Branch, and I can head over to the town of Moor. They do sell better knives here, but I'm just gonna stick with my katanas and buy new diamond armor. Even more defense. Into the Forest of Moor to grab some items. The most important item to pick up is the Aegis Shield. This resists Petrify and can also block spells, making it a very good shield. And then it's crystals. I have no silly strategies here, just spend a bunch of gil throwing out money to end the fight very quickly. No point in messing around with this nonsense, especially when I didn't bother to buy a flame ring in World 1. And that means there's only one thing to do to complete World 2, and that is Exdeath's Castle. And completing that fight means I'm going to need a lot of gil. Ooh, Ice Shield. That could actually help since it absorbs ice damage, and a slightly better katana for one person. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Oh, I didn't really mean to open this chest. The Gilgamesh fight gets me nothing and isn't actually interesting. He barely even hits me thanks to my characters having way too much physical evasion. Anyway, goodbye Gilgamesh, I guess I'll see you in the Rift. And now it's Exdeath, and this fight is actually still spicy. Zenanage deals really good damage, but not like exceptional damage, which means I need to Zenanage a lot of times, which gives Exdeath enough time to show off his pretty dangerous moveset. I do still win and don't even have to heal, but it was spicier than I'd expected. The worlds have merged, and we just have Kryl and Bartz, and together they must face down Antlion, which has a decent chunk of health and likes to have a character's level. But it also only has evadable physical attack, so this takes a while, but is not otherwise interesting. So we get to the Pyramid of Moor next. The gargoyles are thankfully super easy thanks to Zenanage, and most of the pyramid is pretty easy. These prototypes are actually really awkward for Samurai to deal with though. Stupid high physical defense. There's a lot of items here, but I'm gonna save most of them for when I come back in a bit with Lena. Speaking of Lena, it's time to rescue her by beating up Melusine. Melusine has a magic barrier that drastically reduces physical attacks, making Zenanage less useful. Katanas can crit, which bypasses that defense, but it is a little unreliable. Melusine is also pretty strong, meaning it can take out party members very quickly. So it's awkward switching between healing and offense. The good news is once the barrier drops, physical attacks are back on the menu, and Zenanage can crush the fight. Lena is back in the party, and I have a tablet, so it is to the sealed castle to pick up the assassin's dagger, which is neat, I guess. The actual star is the Masamune, the strongest katana in the game. It also makes the user always go first in combat, and can be used as an item to cast haste. This may be the single most important legendary weapon in any of these runs. Little hard to say. Alright, fly to Mirage Village. The thief dagger is here, so I can finally steal, after it's too late to steal anything super useful. And then I can sell garbage items to buy a bunch of new armor. There's also new katanas here, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce, but I'm broke, so it's money grinding time again. It's also time to head back to the Pyramid of Moor because there are more items that I want to grab here. Mostly it's a few elemental shields and a protect ring. Okay, now I have more than enough money to buy the all-new katanas I need. And a Hermes sandals. I can cast haste, but having auto haste also has its benefits. And we're gonna do the island shrine too. I don't even need Zenanage for gargoyles. Honestly, I'm mostly here for the protect ring, but I may as well kill the boss while I'm in here in case I decide to do Fork Tower. The boss is really boring, just keep targeting each target in sequence until one takes damage, then repeat. If you do a good job, the boss will barely take any actions, especially when the entire party is hasted. Whee! Oh, last thing I need to do is grab the magic lamp. And that means it's now time for the Rift. And that means it's boss rush time. And first on that list is Califisteri, who is a little bit of a problem. Callow counters physical attacks with Drain, which doesn't heal quite as much as my attacks, but it comes close. Callow can also inflict fun status effects, like Old. However, Samurai already have a solution to this problem. First is to equip a Reflect Ring I stole on Kryl. This locks Callow into reflecting positive status effects back on herself. Then I can have the entire party spam Mineuchi, an ability I haven't talked about because it's not actually that good most of the time. However, one nice thing about it is it deals decent damage and doesn't trigger counterattacks, for some reason. So I can just spam this and take literally no damage the entire fight. Next up is a panda. A panda has way less physical defense, so once I've cast haste on everyone with the Masamune, I can just spam Zenanage until it dies, which does not take very long. Next up is Azul Magia. This fight is optional, but I like having the save point here. No shenanigans, just haste on everyone and spam basic attacks. As all magia isn't really scary most of the time and goes down without too much effort. Next up is an actually scary boss for most classes, Catastrophe. Earthshaker deals a stupid amount of damage and I don't have any way to negate it with Float, so I really just need to hope I can outdamage it before I die. Let's try basic attacks. Yeah, nope, about what I figured. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. Katanas can crit, so in theory if I got lucky enough I could win this fight, but it would take a lot of attempts. Let's use Zenanage. Oh, that's worse. Slight good news is that Aegis Shield can block Earthshaker. It's not reliable, but it does. Okay, the actual solution to this problem is, again, Mineuchi. Mineuchi inflicts paralysis on the target, so while it does deal less damage per attack, it stops Catastrophe in its tracks and lets me win the fight pretty easily. Why do Samurai have a tool to solve every problem? Anyway, Halicarnassus is up next. He's not strong or durable, and waits way too long in his rotation to use any damaging magic. So this fight is free. Then it's Twintania. I need to survive in the first half of the fight, but once it starts charging Giga Flare, I attack with the Assassin's Dagger and hope, and it works. First try, easy. Everything is going so well. Hi Gilgamesh, yes, nice to see you too. Bye Gilgamesh. Anyway, that is actually the last required boss fight before the final battle, and that means it's time to grind up some levels and get one last cash infusion for X-Death. Ianuki does make grinding up much easier. Anyway, it's time for the final fight. I have loads of gil, a bunch of healing items. Let's do this. X-Death 3 form isn't too scary. I could use Zenanage here to deal decent damage, but honestly just basic attack should cover it, especially when critical hits are so very strong. X-Death, please stop using White Hole. It's so annoying to have to cure death, then cure Petrify, then restore HP. Oh, Meteor, I need X-Death to be dead yesterday. Oh, okay, tree form is down, my health is looking good, and it's time for Neo X-Death. Start with the Magic Lamp to get some decent all-target damage with Bahamut and Leviathan, and then kill the rear segment with Odin. It then becomes the Zenanage show, although Almageist does still hit like a truck. But the party is back up, and it's time to throw money. Okay, first Grand Cross and 2 zombies is not ideal. At least I have Holy Water for Zombie and can recast... Oh, that was a very fast second Almageist. And a fast Grand Cross. Neo X-Death, can you calm down? Ferris is berserked, which is honestly probably bad. Just keep throwing money and use elixirs and hope it... There we go. Neo X-Death is down. And that was Final Fantasy V, beaten with only Samurai. And that was about what I expected. I don't often use Samurai. They are kind of mediocre other than Zenanage, which is busted, but also expensive. It was interesting to see the other abilities actually be useful. Shirahadori to negate physical attacks, Mineuchi to bypass counters, and Ianuki to grind really efficiently. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video, out in a few weeks. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos. So if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone and will remain that way. For now, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.